It's always been the most important thing. It's always been the most important thing. Here's Shanahan on if he failed Trey Lance.
Was this a failure of evaluation, a failure of just circumstance? How would you characterize this move?
I mean, obviously, we took our shot and it didn't work out. So, I mean, that's on us for that. But I'm not going to say anything as in failure. That'd be too much of a negative towards Trey. I get our deal. We took a shot to go for that. We were hoping that he could be our guy, and that didn't work out. So I understand that from our standpoint, but I still do believe in Trey. And, about 3 years ago, we had the 12th pick in the draft, after that COVID year, but we thought we had a really good team. And we didn't think we'd have a chance again to get close to that top area to take a quarterback in the top 10. And when you have the 12th pick in the draft, we went into it realizing it was a risk, but we thought we weren't going to pick that high again for a couple of years, and we would never have a chance to move from 12 to 3. We tried to move up to a number of spots before that, but 3 was the first one that would do it. We looked into everything between 12 and 3, and we got that, and we took our shot, something we believed in and a person we believed in. Was hoping he could play more his first year. We knew he wouldn't come in and just take it over from Jimmy, but we were hoping to mix it in and kind of give him some experience. But once he broke the finger and stuff, it just got tougher for him as time went. We knew we'd commit to him the next year, which we did. We knew he wasn't fully ready in every aspect, but we knew he had a skill set that we could put some stuff together to give him the chance to compete and grow with a good team as he developed as a full quarterback. And he got hurt in the first quarter of the second game, which kind of set that back.
Danny later on was asked if Trey Lance did ask for a trade.
Did he request the trade, and was it a situation where it was unrepairable to the point where if he wasn't traded, you would have had to release him?
No, it was never unprepared. What did you call it? We could always fit. We were good. Like Trey, actually had a great conversation with him today. Had a tough conversation when I told him he didn't win the second job. Today was much easier, just going through it for the last couple of days with him. But no, there was nothing to fix. It was what it was. And I told him when we told him that he was going to be the 3. If he could find another opportunity that was good, we'd allow him to do that. And he did. And we feel he'll be better for it, and I think we will too.
How do you feel about Shanahan right now after those post-game remarks?
The one thing that, I do want to make sure is very clear. I actually don't fault them for swinging big. I know a lot of people are losing their minds about why did you even trade up to 3 to begin with? If we just take a step back, that's a bold move. And I actually supported the bold move. I did. I supported the bold move. I just think we can argue about taking someone, the contradiction of taking someone that on the front end needs a lot of time to get good or to ever be good, and then this whole win now roster, that's a contradiction, and I'm sure in retrospect they would want to redo on that one. But in terms of just swinging big, forget all of the nuances of everybody needs work and upside and all that stuff. Swinging big, I respect swinging big. I really do. I do respect swinging big. And that aspect, I know a lot of people, we should have just stayed at 12. I like that they were super bold trying to get their guy. That conviction, I still back that to this day. Still was probably the wrong pick, though, which sucks.
It turned out to be the wrong pick.
Which sucks.
It turned out to be the wrong pick. And, look, they made a lot of bold moves, man. They have. The D4 trade, the Jimmy trade, trading Buckner, trading for McCaffrey. They made a lot of bold deals, trading back into the first round for Brendan Ayuk.
Yes.
That's a bold move.
Yes.
That's a very bold move. So they get credit for making a bold move. I got no problem with that. No problem with them taking or moving up to number 3. I have no problem with them taking Trey Lance. I still think he was the guy. But if you're going to draft him, and they talked about it, Shanahan talked about protecting Trey Lance. I didn't want to just throw him out there on the field because I knew he needed reps. I knew he needed to play. I knew he was raw. And we tried to work him in that first season. The finger injury to me is the one mysterious one.
What do you mean?
Because they did not make a big deal about the finger injury. And maybe it was gamesmanship to not let another team know how badly that right index finger was hurt for Trey Lance. But they made a big deal about it. Trey Lance made a big deal about it, saying it affected my offseason then after 2021. Gotcha. And going into that year in which he was started, apparently the finger was still a problem. That they should have taken care of. That was bad business right there. Not taking care of that finger. But when you played, you ran him all the time, and you made it seem like, he was just too limited to where we had to run that package. That's a problem. That's a problem with the scouting department. That's a problem with the development.
Yeah.
And that's a problem with this organization right now when it comes to the quarterback spot. boy, you got to hopefully hit on Brock Purdy because when you look at these quarterbacks, Jimmy Garoppolo regressed under Shanahan. There's no doubt. Whether it was injuries or whatnot, he regressed. Nick Willetts got worse. C.J. Beathard got worse. Now, outside of Shanahan, who gets better, we'll see about that. But Trey Lance obviously got a little worse here in his time in San Francisco. So when you do swing for that trade, you got to make sure you're certain about that number 3 pick. And what it seemed like was, and Steiny said this a long time ago,
What's that?
It felt like they didn't trade up for a player. They traded up for the position to being at number 3. And that's what it seems like here after Trey Lance has gone to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, I think they did trade up for a position in terms of like number 3 overall. But it also feels like they had like 4 or 5 options on deck. Trade for Watson, trade for Aaron Rodgers, pick one of these quarterbacks. Like, to me, it felt like they were comfortable with like 4 or 5 different moves. Didn't it?
Right.
Didn't it once they traded up to 3? So I don't know, man. And thinking about where they were coming off of the 2020 year, it was such a, like they had moved out of Arizona. You know what I mean? They were playing home games at the Cardinal Stadium. Jimmy and the Niners had issues about whether he was healthy enough to play with the high ankle sprain. I didn't know if Jimmy was even going to come back. There was just so much, man. And I don't know, should they have taken Mac Jones? Should they have taken Justin Fields?
Wow.
Looking back, it sure feels like, today, it feels like we're going to bet on anyone. It feels like Trevor Lawrence might be the only good player at quarterback.
Well, no, Zach Wilson looks better.
I mean,
Justin Fields, we'll see.
He's had 25 starts, and he's a backup right now.
But he's a backup to Aaron Rodgers, and just with Rodgers' presence and his teaching and his mentorship, Zach Wilson looked better this preseason.
No,
and
he did.
He looked like a better quarterback.
But he's got a lot of starts, and it's year 3 for him. So, but right now, if we were betting on like, will he ever make a Pro Bowl? And I'd probably bet against that. You know what I mean? And so, like right now, Trevor Lawrence looks like the most promising player out of that draft. So maybe there just wasn't a good player out of that, which happens outside of Trevor Lawrence. God, could they, have found a way to get Watson or get Aaron Rodgers? Because I do think that was on the table.
Well, Watson was on the table, and
I think that was on the table.
Watson got into the situation, and that was a do not touch zone for the 49ers.
Yes.
And they built their locker room on high character guys who don't really get into things outside of the football team or get into trouble. They haven't had a lot of that happening with the 49ers in recent memory.
No.
Under Shanahan and Lynch. They've really cleaned that up.
No, they've been really good. Charles Omeni, who's not here, and one of the reasons is stuff off the field.
Right, exactly.
Right? And because he was a very productive player for this team. The finger injury beat, it's hard, like, because you see this in baseball. Guy gets a blister, guy hurts his finger, still goes out there and pitches, but isn't the same, and maybe we don't hear about it. It's like, all right, so the finger injury now is a big deal, and it might have been in real time. He did throw the first touchdown pass of the year, like 2 weeks after.
That's what I'm saying.
A week after
That's
the Raider thing.
saying.
So maybe they downplayed it. Maybe it's a convenient excuse now. I don't know. I really don't know. I do know this. 10 years from now, 15 years from now, whether they hoist the Lombardi or not, we are going to be going back and leading up to the trade, leading up to draft day, after draft day, there's going to be books written about all that. Like, this guy wanted that guy, and that scout wanted that guy, and John Lynch wanted this guy. And maybe they were all on the same page the whole time. Maybe they weren't. I want to know. Because, man, I feel like we're going to be talking about that forever.
Yeah, we will be talking about this trade for a long, long time. But how much will we talk about it? To what extent? Because if Brock Purdy can help this team hoist a Lombardi, and Brock Purdy looked sharp Friday night. He did. I love that stick route by Brendan Ayuk on third down, the timing, the rhythm, the chemistry. I said, damn, look at Purdy throw that ball out there like that. And a lot of people make a big deal. Oh, man, it was only 4 or 5 yard passes. Well, I mean, we could say that about Joe Montana and Steve Young. Stop with the air yards.
He looked good.
I'm tired of the air yards. The whole point of this offense is to get the damn ball to Deebo Samuel, Brendan Ayuk, George Kittle, Chris McCaffrey. I don't care if it's 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I don't care if it's 50 yards on the line of scrimmage. I do not care. Get the ball in the playmaker's hands and let them cook. And that's what this offense is all about.
In a weird way, I was thinking about this Friday night, like, Trey Lance could end up being a footnote in the same way like Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio are a footnote to Steph Curry's greatness, right? Like it's part of the saga. If Brock Purdy ends up being that kind of a guy, I mean, it could even if he's just like Jeff Garcia level, which I would accept in a heartbeat.
Take that right now.
In a heartbeat, I would take that. But like even if he's just that, the how we're going to talk about him and how we're going to talk about Trey Lance, like that is going to be folklore.
No doubt.
Like,
no
hey,
doubt.
hey, look what he beat out this guy that everybody was willing to pay heaven and earth ransom for just to move up in the draft to go get.
I mean, we are talking about a 7th round pick.
It's unreal.
The last pick of the NFL draft. We forget about that story as you're listening.